Welcome to a new series here on Scrolling to Death called Big Tech Gut Check. There is so much happening in the world of social media and the big tech companies that run these platforms. I think it would be helpful for parents to get a quick snippet every week of what's happening in the spaces that our kids are spending several hours of their time every single day. So let's get into it. For the first installment of Big Tech Gut Check, I'm going to rewind a couple of weeks. Earlier in January, I interviewed Amy Neville. Amy Neville is a parent survivor, which means that she has lost a child. Amy told me the story of her son, Alexander. When Alexander was 14 years old, he purchased a pill on Snapchat that he believed to be Oxy. But the pill was laced with fentanyl and Alexander died. When I heard Amy's story, I learned about the drug epidemic on Snapchat and about the active lawsuit that Amy is pursuing against Snap. So on a stormy afternoon of January 24th, I joined Amy in an LA courthouse, and I sat next to her and other parent survivors who are actively suing Snap Inc. We were also joined by a team of documentarians from Bloomberg who are working on a documentary film about this case. I learned that over 60 survivor parents are suing Snap, and dozens more are also joining the lawsuit because their children also passed away from buying a fentanyl-laced pill on Snapchat. Drug dealers are loving Snapchat's disappearing message functionality, the My Eyes Only encryption feature, and also Snap Map. These drug dealers can deal illegal drugs without the transaction being saved and also find the child easily to make the drop. Kids can get illegal drugs from Snapchat just as easily as ordering a pizza on DoorDash. So back to the courthouse. I had never been in a courtroom before, and I wanted to laugh out loud as Snap's legal team walked in their perfect suits and their rich person air. To be honest, the female attorney reminded me of Jodie Foster, like dramatically playing the role of an attorney in some big budget crime drama. And on this day, as Judge Lawrence Riff has done time and time again, he sided with the parents. Judge Riff denied Snap's attempt to strike dozens of allegations from the case. It is looking like this case will go to trial in 2025, and it will be a landmark case in history. Previously, big tech has not been liable for things that happen on their platform. They've been protected by a law that passed in the 90s called Section 230. Okay, so I'll fast forward to January 31st, which was a huge day in legal history. This time it takes place in DC, and 5 big tech CEOs testified in front of the Senate as to why child exploitation is so rampant on their platforms. I was able to watch the live stream while simultaneously getting my kids ready for school. The courtroom was packed with survivor parents who held up photos of their deceased children. Only 2 of these CEOs showed up voluntarily, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta and Shuzi Chu of TikTok. The other 3 had to be subpoenaed. Linda Yaccarino, the CEO of X, Evan Spiegel, the CEO of Snap, and Discord CEO Jason Citron really did not want to be there. He required a court-martial, which was paid for by us, the taxpayers, to get him there. This hearing was entertaining, to say the least. Each senator took their 7 minutes to talk and question the CEOs. They went hardest at Mark Zuckerberg, pointing out some pretty damning features of Instagram and Facebook. They highlighted the massive amount of child sexual abuse material that appears on these platforms and does not get easily taken down. Zuckerberg started his opening statement by trying to convince us that there is no link between social media use and mental health issues. This was laughable. Ask any parent if social media is making their child happier, and they'll say, "I'm sorry, no," and there's your proof. At one point, Senator Hawley of Missouri basically forced Zuckerberg to stand up, turn around, and apologize to the parent survivors as they held up photos of their deceased children. The apology was forced and uncomfortable to watch. Shuzi Chu was questioned over TikTok's ownership by ByteDance, a Chinese company. And under Chinese law, all info accumulated by companies in China is required to be shared with the Chinese intelligence services. So that would infer that all the data we put into TikTok is in the hands of the Chinese government. Now, Mr. Chu denied that any TikTok data has been shared with the Chinese government and that they're working on something called Project Texas, where they're walling off the U.S. data to not be accessible by the Chinese departments of their company. Nonetheless, I found this line of questioning very interesting and thought you might too. Snap CEO Evan Spiegel looked like a scared little boy who's being scolded in the principal's office. Evan had to answer to the fact that he created this app as a tool for sexting. Snapchat was originally called Pickaboo, and he and his frat brothers created it in their early 20s. Evan denied this, of course, though the platform's disappearing message feature still encourages inappropriate behavior to this day. The goal of this hearing was to get the CEOs to answer to the child exploitation material on their platforms, but also to assess their support for a number of bills which are focused on online child safety. One by one, the CEOs denied support for most of the bills, with a couple choosing one or two to support. The goal of these bills overall is to make social media safer for our kids, to add some liability to the tech companies in providing safe platforms. These tech companies saying that they will support certain bills, for now it's just talk. These tech companies spent over $30 million just last year on lobbyists to vote against these bills. That will likely be the case again, though the hope is that the tides of change are coming. In the week leading up to the hearing, the big tech PR firms were working overtime. It was pretty embarrassing. They all started releasing ads and programs showing off how much they care about child safety. These campaigns were super obvious and got people asking, where was this effort years prior? Did it take a committee hearing to get you all to act? Did all these children need to die in the meantime? It's all bullshit. It's all talk. It's time for action and for big tech to stop fighting child safety bills. Now I'll take you to just a couple days ago. Snap did something desperate and honestly dangerous. They announced a brand new campaign. And here's the slogan: less social media, more Snapchat. You heard that right. Snap is claiming that Snapchat is not social media after all. They're saying it never was. They even go as far as to say Snapchat was built as an antidote to social media. This campaign is an obvious publicity stunt to try to separate themselves from the bad PR and the lawsuits and the federal investigation into Snapchat. I think you can probably agree with me that what our children do not need is more Snapchat. Now I'll take you over to New York City, where Mayor Eric Adams called social media a public health hazard and an environmental toxin. He shared, quote, "Just as the Surgeon General did with tobacco and guns, we are treating social media like other public health hazards and ensuring that tech companies take responsibility for their platforms." I was glad to see the statement, and it all sounds well and good, but I hope these words will be followed with some real action in protecting our kids from social media harms. Okay, here's your last update for the week. A group called ECO just released a report on TikTok and Instagram. They pulled this data from January, just a few weeks ago. What they found was really concerning, and parents need to know about this. ECO found 33 million posts on Instagram and TikTok promoting harmful content. And it's not just the content that exists on the platform. The issue here is that Instagram and TikTok are promoting this content in the For You section of children's accounts. So the report found millions of posts promoting suicide and self-harm, and millions of posts promoting eating disorders. So if your child is on Instagram or TikTok, it's likely that they're seeing these posts. Please be sure to talk to them. Tell them that they might see concerning posts like these and that it's not normal. And they should come to you so you can help them report the post and explain to them what they're seeing. Those are the major headlines in the world of big tech for this week. Check back every Friday for a new Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death.